Johnny here with another little video. Wanted to show you some of the images from the track. Last weekend was my first chance to use the Fuji X-H2s at Amarillo Dragway. I'm the track photographer out there. I ended up getting that gig actually with the Sony A9. I picked up a used A9 about a couple months ago. I sent him a message and I was like, "Hey, can I come out and shoot? I just got this A9. I wanted to try it out to see." And I'd never been to the Dragway. I'd been here 4 years, never went to Amarillo Dragway. So I figured, why not? I like drag racing. I don't know why I never went, but I've gone in the past when I was a kid. All the way through my entire life at various points. Everybody, I like fast cars. Cool looking cars, fast cars. I love the colors. I love everything about it. So anyway, so I go out there and I've got this A9 and I'm giving it a shot and I send them the pictures. I was out there for about 3 hours. It was extremely hot and I don't like the heat. I'm fat and old and I don't like the heat. So I sent him the pictures and he's like, "Hey, do you want to be track photographer?" I was honored. I was like, "Yeah, heck yeah, man. I would love to." Come out and shoot every weekend or every time they have a race, go out there and shoot all over the track. I have access to everywhere on the track except past the start finish line, but within the walls, I should say. So anyway, so that's the little backstory as to how I ended up being track photographer at Amarillo Dragway after only shooting for about 3.5 years. They liked the photos enough to where they asked me to be. So I was very excited, very cool. So I figured, hey, the XH2S, I was lucky enough to snag one of these from Adorama. They had them in stock for a few hours, and I was one of the lucky ones that got one. I was looking forward to getting to the track. So here this is a shot actually with the I ended up picking up the was the Viltrox 13 millimeter because I had a Sony. I had the 20 millimeter before, and I love the focal length. It's the distortion isn't as bad, or if at all, and it still gives you a very nice wide angle. So this is actually with the Sony, or not the Sony, with the Viltrox 13 millimeter. Very sharp lens. Viltrox is coming out with some really really good lenses for Fuji. I also have the 85 1.8. This one is the 13 millimeter 1.4, which is going to come out. It's going to work really well at nighttime. But anyway, this is I was just out. I just got it out of the trunk and I just took a quick shot. I ended up, is this still? No, actually, I ended up putting the 50 to 140 on. This is all the way at 140. It's all the way across the parking lot. So I got pretty good reach. The 50 to 140, what is that actually? What is the actual? Let's see, 50 is 75. So 75 to 210. So 75 to 210. So it's basically like having a 70 to 200, more or less, full frame. So this guy actually is from Tucumcari. The thumbnail that you see on the video before you click on the video is actually him riding his motorcycle. I actually got a really good panning shot. That was one of my best panning shots ever that I've ever gotten. And I was using subject detection and it turned out really, really well. So very sharp lens, 50 to 140 is very sharp lens. And even though it's 6-7 years old, it's still really cool. And this is just in the parking lot before, really, really sharp. What this event was Race a Cop, and Amarillo Police Department brought their squad cars out and they actually raced people on the track. It was actually really cool. There was a ton of people there. I mean, it was amazing. That's Gary's car there. And that's Braden right there with his car. He calls that Two-Face. It is he wanted to keep the patina on the car and then his dad wanted to paint it, so they kind of compromised where half of it is, new paint and the other half is the patina, and Braden wanted to keep it that way. So it's very very cool. They got their little logo on there finally. So that's a friend of theirs that brought their car for the first time. I don't think he's ever raced on a drag strip. He used to circle track it, but he's never been down a drag strip. That was his first day. Another shot of Braden's car from the back with all the stickers, all the sponsors, and there was a lot of cars there. I take an opportunity to walk around the parking lot and try to get the cars before the race because a lot of times they're clean, they've been washed or whatever, and I try to get some cool shots. And there's even a newer Corvette there, very nice car, very sharp. But this lens is amazing. It's so sharp. It's just, oh, I love this lens, 50 to 140, and it's so versatile. So yeah, there's cars everywhere, and even some of the guys, these guys kind of follow, do the cop races a lot of times, and there's always some sort of deal on their car at Thin Blue Line. There's in support of police departments. So anyway, I went up, and actually, I've never shot up here before. There's a bridge that goes across the back of the start finish line, or the start line. What did I say? Finish line. Finish line's way the hell down the track, idiot. Uh, but there's a big bridge that goes across the top, and it's over the top of the racetrack. And I've always wanted to go up there. I just never did. And even though I have a 70 or the 70 to 180 Tamron full frame lens, it's still, it's only 180 millimeters. It's not quite even 200 millimeters. But now I wish I'd have went up there because even this, I mean, this is a 210. We're talking 30 millimeters of a difference. But I took this. I was all the way. Actually, I was only at 83 millimeters here. So I'm going to be able to get some really good shots up here in the future. I would have been doing it this weekend, but we got rained out. Everything got flooded out. We got tons of rain. And anybody that's ever lived in Texas, especially Amarillo, around Amarillo, you know that the ground does not handle rain well in this area at all. It always floods. But I mean, I got some good shots in the pits before the race started. But really, the important stuff, the really, really good stuff, I mean, the lens is just, it's just amazing. I don't think I have to tell you, if you're a Fuji user or you ever use that lens, you know how good it is. And it's for it being so old, even, it's got OIS built in, and the stabilization works really well. The X-H2s stabilization is fantastic, up to 7 stops. So it's a little better than the XT4 was. I had the XT4 for a few months, for probably almost a year. And this is way better. Not way better, but it's definitely better. It's noticeable to me. It's definitely noticeable to me. Now we get out on the track, we start shooting. These cars are just kind of, this part of the you drive it there and race it type deal. Because it's Race a Cop. Everybody's bringing their street cars. Some of the local racers that race on a weekly basis in the bracket series and all that, they brought their cars. Like Braden. Braden is a local. Gary's a local racer, so they bring their cars out and race in the bracket series too. So it's nice to have those guys out as well, so we get to see some of the fast, really fast cars. But here was my first shot at a panning shot, and I was very happy, very happy. The only thing I'm not happy with, and it's not the camera or the lens so much, the color cast on the car. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it is a Fuji thing. I don't know, but I have had color cast on cars before, even with the A9. But what it is the track right here, the rubber that's laid down, and the reflection is. We're talking the sun is way up there high, and it's reflecting, and that's what that is. It's the blue black rubber reflecting on the car. So the shinier the car, and depending on what color car it is, I was getting these color casts. Now, as you can see, the very front of the car is not in focus. Wheels are blurred out, but that's what that's what I want. The middle of the car, the writing and everything, any lettering, that's what I'm looking for. The little antenna up there is sharp. So most of the car is sharp, and that's what I'm looking for. And that's what I was worried about, because I had no problems with the A9. The A9 gave me really, really good panning shots. It shoots 20 frames a second, an electronic shutter, no rolling, very little rolling shutter. Same thing here, very little rolling shutter. There's still a little bit. You'll be able to see it in some of the shots when there's a light pole in there, but very, very little. But here again, the writing is super sharp. I believe the Sunoco is kind of soft, but that lettering right there, you can kind of tell where it's hidden. And what I'm doing is I'm aiming directly in the middle of the vehicle. So I'm aiming in the middle, lock on. I had automotive track or automobile tracking on, or automobile subject detection and tracking, and it's locking on easily. And I'm getting a majority of the car in focus. But the rear's out of focus a little bit. The front's soft. But what I'm looking for is these wheels. I'm looking for the wheels to be in motion. That's the whole point. Is if you just take a picture of these cars at 2,000 of a second shutter speed, it looks like they're just sitting on the track, and it's boring. It looks, the only time I do that is on 3/4 shots, and I don't even know if I have any 3/4. I don't even think I took any 3/4 shots here today. I think I was trying to do mostly panning shots. I want to get motion. But here is another one, and I would have to take several. I was running about 30 frames a second, and wow, that's got some color cast on it. I just noticed that. I got to take some of that. See, that's how much color cast, and it's so hard to get out. But I guess I'll just leave it. But writing on the door, you can see the driver, see the helmet. That's sharp. The writing, the name is a little bit blurred, but that's motion blur. And then I can't remember what that said, but it's kind of sharp. But because of the contrast and everything, it looks kind of dull. But the letters are sharp. But that's what I'm looking for is the wheels. The wheels spinning, front and rears out of focus. That's okay with panning shots. That's fine, no big deal, right? And of course, the slower the car is going, the easier it is to get it in focus, to get more of the car in focus. And I was running 160 ISO. 160 ISO. I'm right around 55 to 60 millimeters on the 50 to 140. I'm just practicing. I'm trying to figure out which lens I want to use. But even this, Grand Cherokee, you can tell what the name is, but the front is in focus. You can see, look at how sharp the Jeep is. You can see the license plate, and I think the mirror is good. But it's pretty much in focus till you get back here to the rear door, and then it starts blurring out a little bit. And that's fine. I'm good with that. I'm perfectly fine with that. Here is Joey on his motorcycle, and his helmet is sharp. So the helmet is sharp, but the thing about it is I forgot to switch over to motorcycle. And it seems to have made a difference because later on in the night, I did switch over and it did make a difference. Not a big difference, but it did make a difference. And of course, I'm dragging the shutter. I'm at f14, 1/25th of a second. So I'm dragging the shutter. I haven't gone into crazy Larry Chin territory yet, but it did just fine. I'm little motion blur. You can read his Instagram. You can, read, any of the lettering on the bike pretty much. His number on the windshield is sharp. His helmet is sharp. Most, upper body's pretty sharp. And then it just starts to trail off. And that's fine. It's still a very usable image. I have no problems with it. And here's another one that is starting to get his helmet starting to get a little motion blur and all that. But you can still read the side of the motorcycle. I mean, he's, you can see the name on his sleeve, on his riding suit, and then the rear is pretty much unreadable. But it's still very usable, But here's the thumbnail. This is the one I love the most. This is the one I love the most. Helmet is super sharp. Pretty much his sleeve is sharp. It's like the whole front of the vehicle right here, and his helmet and the windshield and the front part and his name or the Instagram and all that is very sharp. So it's like there's a window. I keep grabbing it. There's a window right here. It's like, here's the sharp right here. And then it just slightly trails off, but it doesn't trail off that much because you can still see the number there. You can still see the decal. You can still read it on the drive train part where the chain goes. I don't know exactly what you call it. Oh, trailing arm? Is that what it is? Trailing arm? I think that's right. I'm not a motorcycle enthusiast or very knowledgeable, but yeah, you can see the cover. What is that? Like an oil thing cover, side of the engine cover. But yeah, I mean, I love the lens. It does just as good as the A9, just as good as the A9, maybe a little bit better because of the subject detection. So, and again, slower vehicles, no problem whatsoever. No issues whatsoever on slower vehicles. I'm getting most of them. Here's a good one. I wish I would have been wider, but I was at 74 millimeters. I should have gone a little bit wider, but they started a little quicker and I thought they were going to start. But I mean, you can't read that, but you can see the F250, but the writing there is sharp. You can see him looking off. Looks like he's looking off to the right. And, so it's like this area here is sharp right here, the front window, back window, and everything else has a little bit of motion blur. It's still usable though. It's still fine. This is, some of this is my technique too. I'm not great. I'm not perfect at this. I'm getting better every week. But see, look at this. You can clearly read F2. Zero's missing, but you can clearly read that, and you can see the power stroke. You can read that. So it's as it's going away from you, as it's coming towards you and going away from you. My technique is the problem because I'm not. I haven't been doing this long enough, but I'm getting better at it. I am trying to get better every day. Every day I go out and shoot. This is pretty much. I mean, he's just got started, so he's not exactly moving super fast. But front end's kind of motion blurry, but you can clearly read the numbers. And the door handles look like they're sharp, and the rear of the vehicle is pretty sharp, but the front isn't. So hopefully someday I'll be able to get everything except for the wheels as sharp as possible. This thing did just fine during the day. During the day, everything was fine. You can see here, Braden's car. I got the front end pretty sharp. It's a little soft on the very front, but you can see the decal. The hood is sharp. The numbers there are sharp. You can see Braden in there. Pretty easy. These decals are soft. And then the rest of the car is soft. But you as long as you get something sharp in there, it's usually usable. I have to say that slowly. This one is pretty much same thing, and this is kind of the running thing. Is you're going to get part of it in sharp. Like, look, you can see the guy driving. You see that with his helmet, with his face mask up, so you can see the guy. That's part of that is also my. I think I had not ND. I had a CPL filter on the lens. We had a Tesla Plaid there that just basically killed everybody. He was just eating everybody's lunch all day and all night. A lot of police cars. I had 2 or 3 of them, and this was a thing. I got the back of the car, but the sides are motion blurry, and of course, the Tesla's gone. He's off in another zip code before the cop car even got going. The side here, I was getting these pretty well because again, the cop cars weren't that fast. Don't tell them I said that, but they were. It's just not that fast. So they were really easy to do panning shots with. Look at this. I think I got the whole thing. I did. I even got the guard. All that is sharp. I'm getting the sun spur or the sun things because I'm at F16. And where was I? Still ISO 160. Getting the sun flares, and then the name on the side. They were the cops wrote the name on the side there, so that you know which cop it is. And then Amarillo Police, and clearly and very sharp. Car number sharp, badge sharp, wheels are blurry. So this was a good panning shot, but again, it's going slow. I am learning that the further away you are while panning, the more success you have. The closer you are, the less success you have. You got to shoot a lot of shots and hope that one's in focus. Got the rear end of the vet pretty well in the door, but then the front end's a little bit soft. A little bit of noise in there too, which is weird because I'm still at ISO 160. This is a pretty good one too. Yeah, you can see all the just all the bad paint spots. You can even see where Trans Am used to be. So this was a good, you can see his helmet clearly and the numbers. The gas door is almost completely in focus. It's like the very top half. Like if you just draw a line and then, for the door handle. So a majority, it's usable. It's a good shot still. This is one of my favorite cars. This Vega shows up quite a bit. Um, that was soft. That was softer than I would have wanted it to, but he's a fast car. And again, this is my technique. This is not the camera. And again, the numbers are a little soft. So it is a little bit soft. I don't think I got any of that. That kind of makes me mad. This one, I think those numbers were sharper than these numbers. It's like somewhere this thing was sharp. Look at the tail. That was sharp. That fin over there. So that was me lagging behind. That's just technique. It's technique because it's locked on. It's not going anywhere. But it's more my technique than anything. I'm failing this camera. I'm failing the X8. It's not failing me. So those of you out there that think the X-H2s sucks or not good enough, it is more than good enough. And here the Mustang got the 5.0. Got him pretty clear. He's a little bit fuzzy, but motion blur. Riding is somewhat in focus. Door handle somewhat in focus. But again, these are panning shots. The cars aren't going to be completely, well, some of you can do this. Have been doing it for years, can do this and get them in focus all the time. I cannot. I'm still working on it. I'm still trying. This one was okay. The writing's in focus. You can see his hat's pretty clear. So I think it does pretty well. It's doing just as well. I'm getting the same hit rate as I am with my A9. So I do want to move to the night shots because this is where I start running into weird issues because I would be locked onto the side of the door. I got to get it way deep in here. I would be locked on. What I was trying to do when they're sitting here, this is the start finish, this little black line right here. This is the starting line. And I would try to lock in here because the point is as they got closer to me and got right in front of me, I'd already be locked onto the side of the vehicle and I could just take the shot. However, I was using the 13 millimeter. I'm too close to the track. I'm too close to the cars. That's where I'm screwing up on these. That's where my technique is failing, is I'm way too close. Getting the nice sun stars again out of the headlights. Because where was I at? And I was at f5.6, but that was with the 13 millimeter. I'm here at 4.5 with the 13 millimeter. Look at the sun stars. I mean, he's giving you sun stars, and the sun stars on his bike was cool. That was completely unintentional. I didn't know that was going to do that. Honestly, I didn't know this thing was going to do the 13 millimeter was going to do sun stars. But that gives you an idea of the 13 millimeter. That's a lot of people that it's covering, a lot of ground on the track that this lens is covering, 20 millimeter equivalent. But it's pretty sharp. I mean, his helmet's sharp, but he just took, or I think he just took off. Yeah, he just took off. So helmet's in focus, legs in focus. Front end is a little soft, but usually with motorcycles, you're trying to get the rider in focus. So here's some failures. The whole car is soft. It's just soft. And again, it's my technique. I'm too close to the track. The 20 millimeter is a great lens, but it's just not meant for this. The whole car is still soft. I got a lot of these. And right here, where he's right in front of me, should be in focus, but it's not. It's just a little bit soft. It locked on. It was tracking just fine. It was doing its job. I think the very tail is sharp. And that was the issue I was having with this. But that's, again, I don't think it's the autofocus. I think it's me. So I just have to figure out how to get further away from the track and be able to shoot. But I don't like having these walls. See this wall right here? I hate having walls in the shots. I hate it. Now this one turned out pretty well, even though the JT's graphics is a little bit soft, but you can clearly see, what does that say? Busted something. It says busted something. I can't tell what it says. And you can read this, it's not completely sharp. And again here, but that's due to lighting is, reflecting. But this is a pretty good shot here. For the most part, this whole area right here is in focus. Wheels are getting really nice blur. So, it worked out okay. But here you see we're closer, and right here's, it's pretty sharp right there. And you can see the passenger. And you can still busted. Busted isn't pretty, but the front end's starting to really blur. Um, but all night long, it was just kind of a struggle. Um, this one, I screwed this up too. I shouldn't have been panning. I should have hit the 3/4 shot with, at about 500th of a second. I would have gotten all this sharp, but again, that's on me. But the 011 is sharp, and you can see the helmet in there is pretty sharp. So it's getting bits and pieces of the vehicles, pretty sharp. It's just, and I was a really high ISO. I was at 2000 ISO. I mean, it's not super high, but it's high. And there's a lot of grain depending on how much light is hitting it. So it seems like there's more grain over here when there's less light. The Vega has more light on it, so it's not as grainy. But the sky, I mean, that gives you an idea. I mean, it cleans up pretty well. Let me go down here on noise reduction. So let's crank the noise reduction up 60%. And I mean, it just makes the car softer, but it does get rid of it. I mean, you can go higher, or you can do the color, color noise, and it cleans up the sky pretty well. The sky is not too bad. There's still a little bit there, but it's not that bad. But I mean, it just totally takes out the Vega. This is motion blur anyway, but this was just a bad shot. I failed. I suck. So, trying to get a painting shot of the junior dragsters, one of the junior dragsters. They had a couple there, and for the most part, I did get one or two of this car that was pretty decent. I think that one was fairly sharp, and they're not moving super fast either, so it's a little easier to get them. That's it's okay. It's not bad, but I struggled a little bit, but it's mostly because again I'm too close to the cars when I'm trying to pan. That's the issue. So here's one of the other motorcycles. He's pretty much in sharp. He's pretty much sharp. But the 396 is okay, and then the rest of the bike's just blurred. It's just motion blur. This one's not too bad, but the front end's got some motion blur. But it's actually not too bad. It's just noisy. Clean the noise up, it's fine. But I think it did pretty well. Now the lens again, I'm still with the 13. And with the lights, it did okay. With the LED lights flashing everywhere, it did okay. So I really didn't have any complaints. Of course, here's the track manager taking care of the track in the middle of the races, trying to get that all squared away. This one I was disappointed in myself because I love these cars like this, these Pro Stock. I think they're Pro Stocks, but there's just a little bit of blur in the writing. But and the scoop is okay, and you can see the helmet's pretty clear. You can, if I zoomed in further, you could probably see the driver, but everything else is just so blurry. I can't. And it's a shame because that's the best shot I got of that car. Because if I go in here, no, I take that back. I guess this one is the writing's a little bit clearer. So I think I edited the wrong one. I think I edited the wrong one because the writing's about the same there. Actually, but there's more sharpness. Yeah, I definitely edited the wrong one. Why did I do that? Maybe because it's closer. I don't know. Well, the front end's kind of sharp. It's kind of, the edges aren't soft. So I don't know. But that's pretty much it. I mean, it's not it. I've got 400 and some photos here. I'm not going to make you sit through every single one of them. Let's go over to the A9 because here's the funny thing. I ran out of memory card on the X-H2s. 128 gig CF Express B card. I ran out of memory. 4,280 photos, I think. And they were all lossless, compressed, but I was just shooting way too many shots. And look how many I got it down to. I got it down to 400 and some photos. But let's go to the A9. Let's see how the A9 did. And these were super underexposed because I wasn't ready for the guy. Uh, I was trying to get my camera switched over. I was grabbing my Sony out of the bag, and I wanted to switch the lenses over to the 28 to 75 G2 so I could shoot at 28. And I wasn't fast enough, and I knew I was wanting to try to get Joey. I think the helmet, top of the helmet's in focus. The writing's in focus. You can still see the Instagram pretty well. You can see the writing on the sleeve. So it's about the same, but this photo was severely, well, I'll show you. That's how underexposed it was because I wasn't ready. This is one of my favorite photos. He is almost completely sharp. Helmet, body, tank, fuel tank, fairing, front fairing, windshield, that's all sharp. Hands, super sharp. And then I've got the guy he's racing in the foreground, which is even more better. I love this shot. I love shots like this, period, where you got the other car, you're shooting through the other vehicle, basically. But look how sharp that is. So I have to give that a win for the A9. I don't know if the Fuji would have pulled that off. I think the Fuji's doing just as good. I really do. I think it does just as well as the A9. Now, I know the A9's 5 years old, blah, 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 but the AF is still fantastic. The AF is still on par or better. Look how sharp the writing is on this. I mean, he wasn't started yet, but it's just, and that's a Sony. Was that the 85? No, I was at the 28 to 75. G2, that's a Tamron, 28 to 75 G2. How sharp that is. Amazing. Big difference in the ISO, running 2000 ISO with the X-H2s at times. 1250 is this one. It's the highest I had to go with the full frame. So, yeah, we know there's an advantage. Blah, blah, blah. We get it. Now, they just took off. Battle Lack is kind of a little bit soft. Front ends, you're starting to see motion blur, but it's pretty sharp. Side, the door handles are sharp. I don't know if the lens is faster. It might have something to do with it. That the lens is better at autofocusing. That one's okay. This one did really good. 390. You got the 392 inch and the SRT is kind of in focus. You can still read it, but it's not in focus. And the door handles, it's like the door's slightly soft, but only the front end of the vehicle, the front quarter panel and hood was in sharp or was sharp. But it still looks good. It's still a good photo. She's a little bit soft. You can tell what that writing is. I think the door handle's pretty much in focus. You can see the LED lights. I don't know what else is going on. Everything else is soft. I mean, so what I'm saying is, the point I'm trying to make is the X-H2s, if I can even say it, is just as good as, A9, probably the A9 too, as well. This was a really good one. The door handles are pretty much in focus. Sport is almost in focus, almost exactly in focus. Taillight's a little soft. XLT is perfectly in focus. Ranger XLT, you can see all that is perfectly sharp. So they're about the same. It's just, number one, technique. Number two, lenses. That 13 millimeter is just not the lens to use. I need to get me the 16 to 55 Fuji lens to use for shots like this, and I think I'll be just fine. Because I did slightly better with the Sony. You can see that girl perfectly sharp. She's doing something, probably doing an Instagram or a story or a reel. That number is completely sharp. The door handle sharp. The mirror, that's got a little motion blur. Front end is almost sharp. Hood sharp. Quarter panel. The Z logo is a little motion blurry. But that's fine because look at her. She's sharp. It's the Sony is good. I can't argue with it, man. Sony's good. But the X-H2 I think is just as good. I just need to learn more about it. I've got to learn how to use it. I got to learn which focusing modes I need to use. Here's one of the things with the Sony that I've always had a problem with, if I could find it. Notice the little sticker. Look how sharp that is. Look how sharp Cobb is here. The door's sharp. The back is blurry. That's motion blur. But then look up here. Nothing is in focus. It's all soft. Every bit of it is soft. It's just this one little area. The thing that I had a problem with the Sony A9 is I feel like the focus area is so condensed that when you're panning, especially at high speed panning, and especially as close as I am to the track, which is my fault, but it doesn't have a chance to get the entire surface in focus that you want. Only just a small pinpoint part of it. But again, that's my problem. That's my issue. But I think with the close distancing, the X-H2s with the subject tracking, with the box expanding, I think it's doing better. I think it's doing a slightly better than the A9. But again, I've got to do my so that's pretty much it. That's first I don't know why I'm getting into Sony when I'm talking about the X-H2s, but I was just giving an example. Look at the Z Sharp. But everything else is out. The quarter, just right around the fender, wheel well, that's sharp. The hood's sharp. Everything else is all motion blurry, which is fine. It's a usable photo. In fact, I did use it, so it's good to go. But that just gives you an idea. If you're contemplating, you can pick up a used A9 for around $2,000. In really good shape. Mine was in mint condition. And nobody uses the electronic shutter on them, so it's a shutter life. It's you have to worry about the shutter breaking. Everybody uses electronic shutter, so it's in that price range, right? So you're going to spend $2,000. You can get into Sony. They've got cheap third-party lenses you can get started with. They're not as fast as Sony lenses. Some of them are pretty close. Some of them are even sharper. But that's a decision you have to make. Are you going to spend $2,500 on an APS-C camera? The lenses are definitely cheaper. The Fuji lenses are better than the third-party lenses on Sony for the most part. So I don't know. It's a toss-up. I kind of wanted to give you an idea. Here's Joey racing. He finally beat this Tesla. He's the only one that beat a Tesla all night long. And look how sharp he is. The whole suit is sharp. Whole thing. Whole front of the, I did good on this one too. It's almost like if I have something in the foreground, he gives it something more to focus on. I don't know. I have no clue. But it worked out really well. And then here too. Is everything sharp? Yeah, pretty much everything. I mean, there's motion blur starting, but the helmet is definitely sharp. And again, this is the Sony A9. And I was trying to get some of these shots. Again, whole uniform or whole riding suit sharp, helmet's sharp. But the whole bike is motion blur except for the very tail here with the numbers. So there you have it. My first night with the Fuji X-H2s at the racetrack, Amarillo Dragway. I call it a success. I just need to better myself. I need to become a better photographer and work on my technique and work on the focus points. I think I'll be just fine with it. Again, I don't think I'm going to go completely Fuji right now. I think I'm going to hold on to the A9 just in case. But I love Fuji colors. I love the film simulations. I love a lot of things about Fuji. And I've just been dying to get something with decent AF, and I think I've got it. I think this is the one. This is the one that I've been looking for. This is what I wanted the XT4 to be, and I think we've got it now. So with better technique, I think I'll be a better photographer, obviously. And I think the Fuji's just fine. You don't need full frame. No, for sure. And that's just my personal opinion. You may think differently. Leave a comment if you want to argue about it. I'm not going to argue with you, but you can argue amongst yourselves, I guess. So thanks for watching, and please subscribe if you haven't done so, or don't. It's up to you. It's not that big of an issue, but it is what it is. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you. Hopefully, I'm going to get some actually live POV type stuff coming from the track. I'm a single person out there. I don't have any help. So I have nobody to help me with a camera, hold a video camera. I tried it with the GoPro on the top of the camera. I just hated it. It just sucked. And I don't know. I need somebody to help me with filming, but I don't have anybody. So woe is me. Anyway, thanks again. We'll see you again real soon, or talk to you again real soon about the Fuji X-H2s. Maybe some A9 videos as well, because it's 5 years old this year. It's still rocking, still kicking. I'm a dual shooter. I don't have brand loyalty. Leave me alone.